All right, everybody, we are back. Finally back with some UFC content. Finally back with some UFC breakdowns and predictions. This week will be UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett, which takes place on January 24th. And then next week, which would be a week in advance, I will have UFC 325 up and ready to go for all of you. But it's good to be back. If you've been following my channel, I have had some breakdowns, some fighter breakdowns, some, MMA analysis breakdowns on my channel. And, those are still going to keep on coming. But we're back doing what we came to do, back with the bread and butter. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, so as you can see, first fight up of the night is going to be Ty Miller versus Adam Fugitt. I'm going to have the odds up on the screen, so if you want to know what the odds are, these are the current odds for DraftKings right now. If you're still looking to bet and things like that, that's great. I'm just going to break the fights down, give you my analysis. Some will be longer than others. You know the drill. There are two fights I am not going to break down today, which is Josh Hockett versus Denzel Freeman, and then Atiba Gaethje versus Andre Pulaev. I'll give you a quick breakdown on those fights first. I just think Gaethje is too powerful. Like anybody else, I give Pulaev a good chance. He's got good takedown defense, good footwork. He has solid volume. His cardio is better with each round, and he can really put that volume, pace, and pressure and use technical striking to his advantage. But just like in Ngannou, Gaethje is the guy where you could be technically better, you could have the better skills. It doesn't matter. If he touches your chin once, it's going to explode. Now, I do think Gaethje has not been tested yet. I do think Gaethje will get to a point where that test is going to come, but it's not here against Pulaev. I mean, you could tell by the odds he's a minus 1,000. I think it's down to like minus 850. But Gaethje is going to walk forward. He's going to let Pulaev move around a little bit, and he's just going to crack him with a big bomb and knock him out. So I have Gaethje first-round knockout for that one. When you look at Josh Hockett versus Denzel Freeman, Freeman looked like absolute gutter trash in that first UFC fight. And when you're facing Merrick Bulow, who looked like a fat, pudgy guy who just got off the Xbox and walked into the cage after he ate a box of ho-hos, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything impressed me in that fight. They could have pushed the pace. There could have been a finish. Bulow didn't want to be in there, and Denzel just didn't put his foot on the gas. I think Hockett is the guy where if you're at the lower level of this heavyweight division, he's going to be able to put a pace on you. He's going to be much more athletic than what you've seen in your career so far. He's going to have great wrestling, good top control, and he's going to look for submissions, and if he can't get the subs, he's going to go for ground and pound. His striking's getting better. He looks better on the feet now than he did before, even though he's known as a wrestler, and I don't see anything Denzel Freeman's going to do besides poke and prod and jab, and yeah, maybe he catches him with a big shot on the way in, but I just think Hockett's too athletic. That's the biggest difference here. He's too athletic. He's too agile, especially for a guy like Freeman. I think he will kind of slow cook him. I think he beats him up on the feet. I think he takes him down, and I think he finishes him with ground and pound in round 2. So I'm going to take Josh Hockett to win. The Incredible Hoke, the Incredible Hawk, Josh Hockett, however you want to say it, to win round 2 TKO. But let's get into the main breakdowns now. We got Ty Miller versus Adam Fugitt, and we're going to kick this one off. All right, so Ty Miller and Adam Fugitt in the welterweight division. Listen, guys, I think Adam Fugitt has a solid skill set. The guy has decent striking. He's long. He's rangy. He has a little bit of power, and he can crack you. You know, that's the type of guy that he is. But I just think Ty Miller, it's going to be the same story of Adam Fugitt's UFC career, right? He gets these up-and-comers, these guys that the UFC wants to build their name up. He wants to build them up. Dana wants to push them, right? So these are the type of fights you give them. You give them an Adam Fugitt, who is good on the regional scene, had a good record on the regional scene, had some okay moments in the UFC, but for the most part, he just doesn't have the power or the skill set to beat a top guy. Now, do I really think that Ty Miller is going to be a top guy in his division? No, not really. But do I think Ty Miller is good enough to beat and probably knock out Adam Fugitt? Yeah, absolutely, man. I got to take Ty Miller, and I'm going to take him by a round 1 knockout. I think he has the possibility to drag this one out late if he tries to get into a point-fighting kickboxing match where they're in and out, they're moving around, touching and going, and it kind of stays like you're staring in the mirror at your opponent, not throwing too much, then I think there is a possibility that this could get into the second or even the third round. But I think Miller has good cardio. He can push a pace down the stretch. He can still throw heavy volume. He's heavy on the pressure, and he's got better striking than Adam Fugitt, right? Like a lot more power too. And I think that's the biggest difference here. Like Fugitt's a decent technical striker. He has okay power in his hands, but he's going to be outmatched in the power. He's going to be outmatched in the pressure. He's going to be put on his back foot with Ty Miller walking him down. And if Fugitt tries to come forward and explode, like, of course he can catch him with a big counter. Fugitt might come into this fight with extra, like we like to say, piss and vinegar. He might come in here looking to prove a point. And that's the most dangerous place that an up-and-comer coming off the Contender Series can be, against a guy who's lost a bunch of times in the UFC, against a guy who's been put on people's highlight reel a bunch of times in the UFC, and a guy who the UFC just doesn't really care about. They're using them to build other people up. It's kind of like the WWE or pro wrestling equivalent of a jobber. Now, it's different, but they're using them to build up these bigger guys. And I think they see Ty Miller as a young kid, a guy who's got good forward pressure, good striking, solid boxing, good kicking, and he has the cardio to back it up down the stretch. I think Adam Fugitt gets put out. I think he gets knocked out. I think it could be round 1. I think it could be round 2. I think it could be round 3. I'm going to take round 2 knockout for Ty Miller. I just think he's going to walk forward. He's going to land those straight punches. And if Fugitt tries to slip and roll out on the way out off the exit, I think he's going to catch him with a big hook. So give me Adam. Oh, I was about to say Adam Fugitt. That would be the wrong pick. Give me Ty Miller, round 2 knockout. All right, next up, we've got Cam Smotherman taking on Ricky Turcios. So this is another one I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on. I've never been the biggest Turcios guy. He throws some wild spinning back fists, a lot of in and out movement, a lot of heavy feints, but not really following up on the feints. And it seems like he'll just throw a bunch of crap out there to try to make the judges think that he's winning. And then, he'll get hit with some big shots. He'll get dropped. He'll get rocked, and he'll end up losing these decisions. But one thing I will say is that Turcios, he is tough. He does have decent cardio. He will push forward. He's very active on the ground, so if Smotherman tries to use more of a wrestling game plan to control Turcios, he's going to have a hard time just because Turcios is throwing elbows. He's slapping his opponents in the face off of his back. He's trying to scramble. He's trying to get back up to his feet, and he's right back on the pressure. I think Smotherman is a guy who can break to pressure, but I just don't think Turcios has enough danger factor in order to make that happen in this matchup. I think Smotherman is the better boxer. He's got much better technique. He's much more powerful, and he's the better technical fighter all the way around. I would say Turcios is the better grappler, but I just don't see him pursuing a heavy grappling game plan in this fight. I think he's going to look to stay on the feet, explode with big straight punches, jabs and straights, slipping out to off the center line, throwing some kicks on the exits. And don't get me wrong, I think he's going to land a couple shots here and there. I think the fight will be competitive, but I think it's going to be one of those fights where even though it's competitive for 15 minutes, we're still going to know at the end of the day that Cam Smotherman is the guy who won the fight. Now, do I think Smotherman's a top-level guy? No, but do I think this is a favorable matchup? Yeah. I just worry a little bit about the mentality of Smotherman. Smotherman is a guy where it seems like if he falls behind, he can kind of start to snowball and lose those rounds a lot easier. And that's the one thing I'm a little bit worried about. We know Turcios is going to stay in the fight, even though he's a little bit of a whack job. We know that he's going to try to win. For the 15 minutes that this fight takes place, if it goes the full distance, we know he's going to try to win the entire time. He doesn't have the greatest volume. He's going to be the better grappler, in my opinion. I feel like he has better scrambles, better ability to work off of his back, better ability to get top position, and he will go for submissions. I think Smotherman is at a disadvantage if the fight goes to the ground, but I think Smotherman has good enough hips, strong enough hips, and a good enough base to stop a lot of the wrestling, and I think on the way in, Turcios doesn't have good enough defense to stay out of the way of the boxing of Smotherman. Smotherman is a good boxer. He's got a good jab, a good lead hook, a good straight right hand down the middle, and he knows when to throw his shots, and I just think it's going to be more of Smotherman circling, using his footwork, using his jab, cutting the angle with the check hook, and just catching Turcios on the way in, stopping a lot of the takedowns, and then winning the fight on a decision. Is the fight going to be close and competitive? At certain points, I think it will. I think Turcios probably gets at least one takedown. I think Turcios will land some combinations on the feet, but I think he's going to get hit with the more powerful shots, the more meaningful shots, and just lose over 15 minutes and lose a clear decision. So give me Cameron Smotherman to win 29-28 unanimous decision. All right, next fight up, we got a battle in the lightweight division between two veterans of the UFC in Michael the Menace Johnson taking on Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez. I believe that's his name now, his nickname now. I know it was the Great White, but I feel like he changed it to the Great Ape. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but man, this is an interesting fight, and I'm actually kind of surprised that Johnson is the underdog, but based off the fact he's been the underdog in pretty much all of his last wins, then, you know, it doesn't surprise me too much. I was shocked that he beat Daniel Zellhuber. I figured that was a good match for Zellhuber, work the legs, work the body, go up with head kicks, and snipe him on the way in. But Johnson just proved to be too durable and too fast, man. The one thing that you can say about Michael Johnson, given all the losses he's taken in his career, all the experiences, that this guy is still fast as shit. Now, the question becomes, is he faster than Alexander Hernandez? And that's where I really think this fight is a coin flip. I think Hernandez, he might be a little bit faster with his footwork, but I think the hand speed of Michael Johnson is a lot faster than Hernandez. I think the footwork, though, could pose a lot of problems for MJ. Johnson has good lateral movement, good in and out movement, but he kind of moves laterally and then just explodes in with a 1-2 or a 3-2. But at the same time, I kind of feel like this is a fight that Johnson could be winning on the scorecards the entire time and then gets knocked out by Hernandez. Hernandez could be outclassing MJ, winning the rounds, and then gas out later in the fight and get finished. Or, you know, be winning the round, get hit with a big shot, and then lose the round or get finished. This is literally 50-50 in my opinion. I am going to side with Michael Johnson, though. I just think if I have to bank on who's going to have the better cardio in the second and the third round, I think it's Michael Johnson. And Johnson's never been known to have the best cardio, but he's not known to gas out and fall off a cliff either. Alexander Hernandez is a guy who has decent cardio, but we know that he does slow down. Now, that was more at 145. Now he's up at 55. It might be a little bit different. His cardio might be better, but I still think he probably slows down in those later rounds. And I really think the biggest thing with Hernandez is if you're a fast puncher, if you have good boxing, and if you're just quick on the trigger, and that's what Michael Johnson is. I'm going to say that this fight goes 15 minutes. That might not be the most popular opinion based on how this fight's going to play out, but I think it's going to be a lot of that outside foot battle, the outside foot positioning. Hernandez has good switch stance combos. He might be able to switch, cut the angle, and throw the opposite hand and catch Michael Johnson coming in. So at the end of the day, man, I'm going to take Michael Johnson, though. I think he's faster. I think he has a pretty big advantage in terms of the hand speed, where I think the footwork speed goes to Hernandez, and I think he will be the one who can push the higher pace in the second and the third round. Give me Michael Johnson to win. I'm going to take him to win 29-28 split decision. I think this is going to be a close fight. I think this is 50-50, but I like the speed of Michael Johnson and the fact that most of his power and speed does come from his hands. So give me Michael Johnson, 29-28 split decision over Alexander Hernandez. Up next, we got a battle in the flyweight division. You have the favorite in Charles Energy Johnson taking on Alex Perez. I was about to say Alexander Hernandez again, but we got Alex Perez right after Alexander Hernandez. Yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I like Alex Perez just as much as the next guy. I think he does have good boxing. He has decent footwork. He's good on the inside. He trains out of that classic fight team, or at least he did for a time. So you know his Muay Thai, his boxing. I think his pocket boxing is the best aspect of Alex Perez's game. I think he's good with the uppercuts and the hooks, getting on the inside, switching stances, landing those shift combinations as he kind of blitzes you. And I think that could give Charles Johnson some issues. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that the blitzing combinations and the stance changes could run Charles Johnson into some big shots. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I think Johnson wins this fight, and I think he does so impressively. I think he gets a finish over Alex Perez. I think that we've seen that even in fights where Perez is looking good, he always tends to make that one mistake that can cost him the fight, or, you know, he gets injured, or he gets caught in a submission like Almabayev, or, you know, he can get hit with some big shots, get rocked, and then just kind of be forced into that shell. I think Johnson does get hit a lot. That's the one thing I'm worried about, especially against a guy who has good hands like Perez. I wouldn't be surprised if Perez knocked out Charles Johnson. The knockout of Charles Johnson is coming. The guy gets hit a lot. He keeps his hands down. He's always shifting angles, changing stances, moving in and out, and eventually that hands low style where he gets hit. I mean, we've seen him get rocked. We've seen him get wobbled. We've seen him get his eyes hurt, like where he's touching his eyes from getting hit with hooks. That's eventually going to come back to bite him, but I don't think it's going to be against Alex Perez. I think Perez is at the tail end of his career, whereas I think the momentum that Charles Johnson is building up, I think he's just going to keep going up and up and up. And based on the fact now that the guy he knocked out in the third round in Joshua Van is the flyweight champion of the world, whether you want to call it a fair win or not, it was a fair win, and it was done off of the move that Joshua Van did, and that's why he won the title. So cry about it some more. Some of these little bitches, man, I can't believe it. But at the end of the day, I think this is a spot where Johnson not only looks good, but he gets a finish against Alex Perez. Now, when you look at a finish, how do you break down the finish? Is it a submission? Is it a knockout? I think it could be either one, man. I mean, that win over Loney Kavanaugh, he was getting pieced up and diced up like a tomato in that first round. He was getting hit with every shot. He was getting hit with kicks, punches to the body, punches to the head. But in this fight, I think the forward pressure of the energy is just going to be too much for Alex Perez. I think he's going to land those stance shifting combos. I think he's going to push Perez up against the fence. Perez is going to do that high guard and try to roll and counter with overhands and hooks. And I think he's just going to get picked apart. He's going to get hit with elbows and knees on the inside. And I think he's going to get finished up against the cage. If you go back and you watch the fight that Johnson had with Sumo Darji, where he hurt him and then jumped on him and was ripping shots up against the cage and almost finished him. Should have been a finish, but it wasn't. I kind of see a similar situation here where it starts off kind of competitive, and then in the second round, I think Johnson's going to take a little bit to download the data and figure out Alex Perez, and then he's going to start landing those combinations. He's going to go lead, front kick to the body, switch stance into southpaw, left straight, right check hook off the center, switch stance into orthodox, jab, right hand over the top, uppercut, hook, and I think he's going to hit Perez with a shot. He's going to cover up and try to counter, and I think Johnson's going to pour it on him up against the cage, hit him with uppercuts, hooks, knees to the body, rip the body, 1-2, switch stance, straight left, right hook, and cut him off and finish him off in the second round. Give me Charles Energy Johnson. I got him winning this fight via second round knockout over Alex Perez and getting one step closer to a potential rematch with Joshua Van for the belt. All right, next fight up on the card is going to be in the light heavyweight division. You got a battle between Modestas Bukauskas taking on Nikita the Miner Krylov. So, yeah, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this breakdown. I think both guys are unreliable. I think both guys have chin issues. I think the better grappler of the two is definitely Krylov if Krylov gets on top. If Bukauskas takes down Krylov and gets wrapped up in a submission, like, it's not going to surprise me. So do I think Krylov can win the fight? Yes. Do I think he's going to win the fight? No, I don't, man. I got to go with the guy who's got the upward trajectory and the momentum right now in Bukauskas. Now, do I think Bukauskas is going to be a top contender in the division? No. Do I think he'll even break, like, the top 7 or 8? Not really. I think he can break the top 10, but after that, I think it's just a bad road for him. But, yeah, I mean, Krylov's okay on the feet. He has decent shots in the clinch, little short uppercuts and knees. We've seen him hurt guys like Alexander Gustafsson with. But his bread and butter, like I said, is going to be the grappling and the ground game and the takedowns. I don't think Bukauskas has the best takedown defense, but at the same time, I don't really think it's going to get to the ground. And I think that anytime this fight's on the feet, I got to side with Bukauskas. Now, Bukauskas was a much bigger favorite. It seems like the money is coming in on Nikita Krylov. People are having this thought that he's going to have some sort of a resurgence. I'm not buying it. I'm taking Bukauskas to win by knockout. I think he looks good in his recent fights. He's got good combinations, good straight punches, good footwork. And Krylov just kind of marches forward, and, you know, he's like a marauder and a prodder. He'll just walk forward and kind of walk his way into the pocket and try to get close to you. I think Bukauskas is too fast. I think he hits too hard. And, yeah, I think he just snipes Nikita Krylov, and I think he knocks him out. I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas to win by a round 1 knockout in this fight. Would it surprise me if Krylov won by a submission, or Bukauskas hurt Krylov and then he jumped on him on the ground and he got caught in an armbar or wrapped up in a triangle? No, not really. That wouldn't surprise me. But I think if Bukauskas does hurt Krylov, Krylov isn't going to be able to recover. And we've seen Krylov being a guy where when he gets hurt, he doesn't have that ability to recover. Whereas with Bukauskas, we've seen him get rocked, we've seen him get hit with shots, and we've seen him come back. I think both guys are a liability in terms of the amount of damage that they can take. I think they both have chin issues. I think on the feet, the much cleaner and sharper striker is Bukauskas, but if it gets dirty and messy, wouldn't surprise me if a little short uppercut or a knee inside the clinch landed for Krylov and hurt Bukauskas, and then he jumped on him and subbed him. But I'm going to take Bukauskas. I think he is on the upward trajectory. I think he's faster. I think he moves much better on the feet, and he's got the momentum coming into this one. So give me Modestas Bukauskas. Give me Bukauskas by round 1 knockout over Nikita Krylov, and Krylov probably retires after this one. All right, up next, we've got a battle in the bantamweight division. Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. Yeah, guys, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight. We picked Figuereido as a big underdog against Montel Jackson, and we picked him by submission, and we got so damn close, but it wasn't there. But he did win, and he won, like I said, as a big underdog. We're not going to be picking him here, though. We're not going to be picking him here. You know, I think Figueiredo is a solid fighter. He's got that awkward side stance. He throws his uppercuts and his overhands from weird angles, and he kind of leans in and tries to catch you. I think if Umar shoots a bad takedown, that Figueiredo's live to lock up a guillotine. And I really think if he doesn't get the guillotine, he's getting smashed. And this isn't going to be a long breakdown. We have other fights and more interesting fights that, you know, we can talk about. But just realistically, guys, like, I think Nurmagomedov wins. I think he finishes Deiveson, and I'm going to say he wins by submission. We've seen Figueiredo like to play off of his back with leg locks and heel hooks and things like that. I don't think it's going to be like a first-round finish. You know, I don't think Umar's going to come out there and just buzzsaw through Figueiredo. But I don't think it's going to make it to a decision either, man. I think Figueiredo is at the tail end of his career. He's had a little bit of a resurgence, but against Umar, it's just a different level of opponent. And I think Umar's solid enough on the feet to where his distance and range management is going to kind of negate the forward pressure and the slipping and countering of Figueiredo. Like those front kicks to the face, front kicks to the body, lead leg roundhouse kicks to the head. And then I think that's just going to open up the grappling. I think we'll see Figueiredo attempt some submissions. I'd expect him to jump for guillotines. I'd expect him to try to roll for leg locks and things along those lines, because he will hit the mat at a certain point in this fight. But even if it doesn't hit the mat, I just think Umar's long-range weapons, the jab, the lead leg roundhouse kick to the head, the front kick to the body, I think those are just going to kind of keep Figueiredo at bay. And then when he rushes forward, that's when the takedowns will open up for Umar. So like I said, if you want me to be objective and think that, give you a reason why you should bet Figueiredo, the reason why you should bet Figueiredo is you shouldn't bet Figueiredo because he's going to lose. So if you want to play anything, play Figueiredo by submission. Preferably Figueiredo by guillotine, because I think if it is a sub, he would catch that front choke on a takedown attempt because he has a nasty front choke. But it's not happening. They know what they're doing here. Umar's a huge favorite. He's a huge favorite for a reason. And, yeah, I think he gets a finish here. I'm going to say he lands some good shots on the feet, gets some takedowns, and then takes the back of Figuereido and subs him with a rear naked choke. Give me Umar Nurmagomedov to win via a third-round rear naked choke submission over Deiveson Figueiredo. All right, up next, we've got a battle in the women's flyweight division. An extremely interesting fight here. Man, this fight is really, really solid. We've got Rose Namajunas, the former strawweight queen, taking on the up-and-coming rising contender in Natalia Silva. Guys, this one hurts me because I think that the best technical fighter out of any women's division is Rose Namajunas. I've said that from day one. I think she is one of the most well-rounded fighters in the entire UFC. It's more of a mental block sometimes where she gets into her own head and she doesn't live up to the potential that many people think. But I really think that this fight is going to play out in a kickboxing match. And anybody who strikes with Namajunas for long enough could get knocked out. And even if they don't get knocked out, it's going to be a close fight. So do I think Natalia Silva should be minus 410? No, absolutely not. I think the highest, I would definitely make Natalia Silva the favorite. But I would be like at minus 220. I got to be real. Minus 400, it's insane. Because Silva's not a finisher. Okay, she finished Teresa Bleda with a spinning back kick to the head. Cool. Does she have the skill set to finish girls? Yes, she's very, very solid. Traditional karate and taekwondo striking, very light on the lead leg. She keeps her hands down low, moves side to side, moves in and out, pops the jab, lead leg roundhouse kick to the head, rear leg roundhouse kicks. I mean, she's very fast, and I think she's faster than Rose. But I think Rose is a better boxer than Natalia Silva. I think that is the part that people are neglecting. Is like they just think it's going to be a battle at kicking range the entire time. And I don't necessarily think that that's true, man. I think Namajunas can time some takedowns here. She's got a very good ability to use a step through to southpaw to land the outside trip. She'll jab, feint the right hand, step through to southpaw, and then get the trip takedown. I think if she trips Silva down to the ground and Silva tries to just hip heist and use a tactical getup, I feel like she could leave her back open to be taken and get submitted. So I think a sneaky play is actually Rose Namajunas to win by submission. But realistically, I see this fight being a majority kickboxing, or a fight that the majority of the fight is on the feet. I cannot talk. I don't know what that was. But yes, I think the majority of this fight takes place in the striking range. I think Namajunas can go back and forth with Natalia Silva, but at the same time, I kind of think that it's going to be a lack of volume, and I think the of Natalia Silva is going to edge the judges ever so slightly to moving towards her favor in a decision. I don't see it being a 3-0 type decision for Natalia Silva where she's going to dominate the fight. It's very hard to dominate a girl like Namajunas on the feet. So, do I think Namajunas has a chance? Yes. Do I think the odds are way off? Yes. Do I think Natalia Silva probably wins? I do. I think that the optics, with all her strikes, and, you know, just the ability to probably outland Namajunas at a significant, not at a significant margin, but at a slight margin from kicking range. I think Namajunas does outbox her at certain points in this fight, and I think her hands are much, much cleaner. I believe her lateral movement is better. I think the forward and backward linear movement of Rose is better, where I think the forward and backward movement of Silva is better, but I think the lateral movement of Namajunas with the circling and the angles and, you know, pivoting out, I think that's better than Silva. So I think Silva lands some good shots. I think Namajunas lands some good shots. I think at the end of the day, this is a close fight that takes place. Like I said, the majority of it takes place on the feet. I think Namajunas can make the rounds close by sealing rounds with takedown attempts and switching stances into that southpaw position and getting those trip takedowns. And I think this fight ends by split decision. If the split decision on this fight is big, I would take a stab at it. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be just because it is a women's fight. But I'm going to take Natalia Silva. It pains me to say it, but I just got to be honest. I think she'll do a little bit more. I think she'll land better kicks from the outside, and it's going to be harder for Rose to get on the inside and close the distance. But again, I think it's a close fight. I don't think it's the most entertaining, but I think this will be a clean technical fight that's mainly a kickboxing match for 15 minutes. And I'm going to edge Natalia Silva to win by decision. Give me Natalia Silva 29-28 split decision over Thug Rose Namajunas. All right, the next fight up is in the featherweight division. You got a battle between Lord Gene Silva coming back off that knockout loss. First UFC loss to Diego Lopez at Noche UFC. And he's taking on a very, very difficult matchup in the division in TriStar Gym's Arnold Allen. Arnold Almighty Allen. Gene Silva's over a 3-1 favorite. I'm going to be real with you. I don't agree with it. I do not agree with him being that big of a favorite. I do think he should be the favorite, but being that big of a favorite, especially coming off a knockout loss and not taking a ton of time off in between the knockout loss to this fight, I don't necessarily agree with those odds. But let's break down the fight from a technical perspective, okay? So Silva, very good jab. He keeps the hands down low, moves in and out, moves laterally. He's got a very good check left hook. He's got a good hook right hand. He throws the 1-2 right down the middle. He's got good straight punches. He has good uppercuts. And I think I would say his best attribute is his calmness under fire. He stays in the fight. He stays calm. He sees shots coming. He's got very good eyes. And sometimes it's more of a mental thing that I think it's a mental thing that lost him the fight against Diego Lopez. There's no reason you should have lost that fight. He was piecing him up. He was landing huge shots. And yeah, he got taken down. He got controlled from the top position. Almost got finished in the first round. After he got up, after he reversed position, he was piecing up Diego Lopez on the feet. It was his own neglect for the weapons and the danger that Lopez offered that cost him the fight against Diego Lopez, and it's as simple as that. I mean, he was teeing off on him. Every shot he was throwing, he was landing. He got hit with 2 spinning elbows. He kept throwing spinning elbows of his own and then got hit with the same weapon he was trying to overcommit to. So I think Gene Silva, it's more of a mental thing. Can he stay locked in and prepared to fight for 15 minutes? If he starts fucking off again against Arnold Allen could knock him out. He's got a very good check right hook. He's got a solid straight left hand down the middle. He's very clean, very technical, good lateral movement. He fights on the outside, throws the 1-2 down the middle, throws that check left hook, and he's got a very good left head kick. I actually think if there's a weapon that Arnold Allen has that could pose the most issues for a guy like Gene Silva with that hands low style, I think it would either be a left head kick or I had another thing in my head that I was thinking of. I think the left head kick could definitely be a big issue if Silva's walking forward with his hands low, or if he tries to pull away from a cross and Allen sidesteps and throws the head kick. I think the head kick of Arnold Allen could be an issue, and we've seen him land it on multiple guys before, and we saw him hurt Sadiq Youssef with that as well. I think the left head kick chambered into the left cross could be a big weapon for him. But I really think that the power of Gene Silva is what's going to make the difference here. I mean, he was getting rocked and stumbled by Movsar Evloev, and Evloev has okay power, but it's nowhere near the level of a Gene Silva. And I think the power is what makes the biggest difference here. I think the speed of both guys, I don't know who's faster. I would actually say it's probably an equal in speed. If I had to edge anybody being a little bit faster, I think it's Gene Silva, because I think he doesn't loop his punches as much as Arnold Allen. Allen, when he gets you in trouble or tries to close the show or close the distance, he'll throw big looping hooks and big looping overhands, which is actually what got him caught against Dan Hooker. So I could see him trying to trade with Gene Silva, looping his shots and just getting sniped with a check right hook, or a check left hook, or getting sniped with a right hand down the middle, considering that they're both going to be in the opposite stance. But I think we're going to see a lot of inside leg kicks, which could be countered by the right hand of Gene Silva. I think we're going to see some left head kicks, and we're going to see that check right hook of Arnold Allen to get off the center line a lot in this fight. I think Allen's win condition comes off of Gene Silva fucking around too much and making mistakes. And that is much more of a possibility with Gene Silva than it is with any other fighters, just because of the way he fights, the lackadaisical style, the hands low, the relaxation, the calmness. He could leave himself open, especially if he starts getting the advantage and landing big shots. But I do think that the power of Gene Silva is what's going to make the difference. I think as Arnold Allen steps in, if he loops his punches, those big elbows over the top, crashing elbows could cause Arnold Allen some issues. And like I said, I could see, Allen hitting Gene Silva high guarding and backing up, and then Allen loops those big overhands and hooks, gets hit with a counter elbow, gets hit with a straight right hand, gets hit with a check hook on the way in. So I think the power makes the biggest difference, and I'm going to say Gene Silva knocks out Arnold Allen. Could I see it going to a decision? Absolutely. But I'm going to say that the power is too much, and I think he hurts Arnold Allen one too many times. I don't think it's like a one-shot KO. I think he rocks him. Allen recovers. He rocks him again. He jumps on him, lands some big uppercuts and elbows, and the ref stops it. So give me Gene Silva. Give me Lord Gene Silva to bounce back in a big way and defeat Arnold Allen via a second-round TKO in this fight. All right, next fight up is in the heavyweight division. You got a battle between Waldo Cortes Acosta taking on Derek the Black Beast Lewis. Another fight that, realistically, I'm just not going to spend a lot of time on because you never know with Derek Lewis. He's not the best technically. He throws big looping shots. He can throw some big head kicks and switch kicks to the head, which could cause issues. But at the end of the day, man, I just think Waldo is the cleaner striker. I think he can knock out Derek Lewis. I think if you can take the shots of Sergey Pavlovich, I think he could take the shots of Derek Lewis. I just think he's a lot faster. I think he's a lot more elusive. I believe he has more weapons, and he's a little bit more relaxed than Derek Lewis in these fights. But Derek Lewis is a knockout king. If he knocked out Waldo Cortes Acosta, would I be surprised? No. Do I think it's going to happen? Honestly, no. I really don't. I think this fight could go to a decision, which is kind of a crazy thing to say because you would expect these two big heavyweights to find a KO and then that's it. I think Lewis is much more liable to being knocked out than Waldo Cortes Acosta. I think the jab is going to be a big issue for Derek Lewis, and I think he can actually hurt him with a jab in this fight. Lewis has had issues with the snappy jabs before, and it's caused issues to his vision in his eyes, so I could see him just walking in and getting hit with a bunch of jabs, covering up, trying to draw Acosta in. He throws a big counter, he gets out of the way, and then he jumps on him and finishes him. But I'm going to think outside the box here, and I'm going to say that this fight is kind of a slow-paced kickboxing match. Acosta lands some big shots, but doesn't want to close the distance because of the power of Lewis coming back with counters. And I think Waldo just clearly wins a decision. So I'm going to say Waldo Cortes Acosta wins this fight via a 30-27 unanimous decision. I could see a KO. I could see a KO from Lewis, but I think that the chin of Waldo Cortes is probably going to be able to hold up here. But again, if anybody could crack it, it would be a guy like Derek Lewis. But at the end of the day, really, I'm just going to say it goes to a decision. The jab of Cortes Acosta, the 1-2, the footwork and the movement, I think he just outstrikes and outboxes Derek Lewis for 15 minutes. Lewis throws some big punches, lands some big shots, but they don't knock out Cortes Acosta, and he wins on the scorecard. So give me Waldo Cortes Acosta to defeat Derek Lewis via a 30-27 unanimous decision in this fight. All right, and now we're at the co-main event of the evening in the UFC bantamweight division. You have the favorite in the former bantamweight champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley, taking on Song Yadong, the Kung Fu Kid. That was his nickname before. I don't know if he still goes by the same nickname. But, man, this is going to be a good fight, I think Song Yadong is getting underestimated a little bit. I think the power of Song Yadong is what could cause some issues for O'Malley. I also think the wrestling of Song Yadong, it would be very smart for him to use some big shots, land at least one big shot on O'Malley, make him hesitant, and then change levels and shoot takedowns. I think if Song comes in with his wrestling shoes on and looks to cage push and hold O'Malley up against the cage, I think he could take him down, and I think he could cause some damage to him on the ground from that top position. But realistically, I think those fights with Merab, if anything, they're going to make Sean O'Malley's takedown defense, reaction to takedowns, and timing on the takedown defense better. So I think if he would have fought him before Merab, he could have had a little bit more success than he would at this point. I think the long-range weapons of O'Malley, the fakes and feints, the uppercut feint to the left hook right hand, the uppercut feint, the jab, the 1-2 down the middle, the 1-2 step off, 2. Like, I just think his long-range weapons are going to just snipe Song Yadong all day. I think the UFC knows what they're doing with this matchup. I think the biggest thing for me when I break this down is the mentality of O'Malley. I almost feel like Song Yadong is more motivated to win this fight than O'Malley, and that's a dangerous position for a guy like O'Malley to be in. He lost back-to-back fights to the champion in Merab. He arguably lost the fight to Petr Yan, who now is the UFC bantamweight champion after dominating Merab for basically 5 rounds, or at least 4 out of the 5 rounds. So I think O'Malley, it's a mental thing. If O'Malley's turned on and switched on, ready to go, he could knock out Song Yadong. I don't necessarily want to bank on the fact that he gets a KO, though, because I think Song is very durable. He can take a lot of shots, and he can get hit a bunch of times because of the way he high guards and slips and rolls and keeps his hands up. I think it's going to be very hard for him to get finished in this fight. But if anybody could do it in this division, I would think it would probably be O'Malley. And people are going to say, oh, he got cut and, TKO'd by Corey Sandhagen. That's true, but that was a doctor stoppage. That was not a true TKO. But I think that the knees of O'Malley, the fakes and feints, the straight punches, and the shots up the middle are going to be the biggest weapons for O'Malley here. Faking and feinting, popping the jab, popping the 1-2, pull back with the 2 counter, jab, uppercut, feint the uppercut, throw the rear knee because of the high guard of Song Yadong. I think it's just going to be kind of target practice for O'Malley here. He's going to have to watch out for counters. He got hit a lot with the counter block, the block counter left hook from Petr Yan. Song Yadong has a lot of power in his hands. He's got a good right hand. He's got a good left hook. I would worry, if I was O'Malley, about keeping my hands down too low, throwing a big shot and getting countered over the top with that left hook, or getting countered as he tries to step in with that overhand right. So I think the left hook and the overhand right of Song Yadong are going to be the weapons that he could use to potentially knock out Sean O'Malley. Like I said, I think it would be smart for him to take the boring approach and get him to respect his hands and the power, and then change levels and get takedowns and win the fight on the scorecards that way. I think the wrestling-based decision for Song Yadong would be a smart game plan in this style of a matchup, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think O'Malley's going to be switched on. I don't think he's going to get a knockout. It would be a big statement if he was going to finish Song Yadong, and I think that would be a very good thing for his career at this point. But I'm going to say he just snipes Song Yadong, lands some big knees, uses the jab, circles around, 1-2 down the middle, lands pull counters over the big wide shots of Song Yadong, knees up the middle, and just kickboxes his way to a unanimous decision. So give me Sean O'Malley. Give me Sean O'Malley to win 29-28 unanimous decision over the Kung Fu Kid and Song Yadong. I wouldn't fully count out Song Yadong. Like I said, wrestling, solid approach, block counters with the left hook and the overhand right, following the left hook counter with the overhand right. Those are all some good weapons that I think he could use against a guy like Sean O'Malley. But I think the range, the speed, and just the ability to mix up his combinations with the fakes and feints are going to give Song Yadong, who's primarily a one-dimensional boxer, paired in with some wrestling, it's going to give him a lot of trouble. So give me Sean O'Malley, give me the Sugar Show to come back in winning form and win 29-28 unanimous decision here. And now we're at the main event of the evening for the interim lightweight championship between Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Justin the Highlight Gaethje. The winner will be facing Ilia Topuria this summer for the Undisputed Championship in the lightweight division. I think you guys know where I'm going with this, but let me just give a few quick facts before I give my final prediction. So Justin Gaethje, man, like, everybody loves this guy. You can't, if you're a fight fan, you love Justin Gaethje. You can't not love a guy like Justin Gaethje. Great boxing. His footwork has improved. His defense and counters have improved as well, but he still gets hit a lot. And, I think working with Trevor Whitman, like, this guy's footwork, his angles, his ability to move out of the way and come back with counters, it's gotten a lot better. And I will say he's the better striker of the two on the feet between him and Pimblett. He fought Rafael Fiziev in his last fight. He won that fight via a unanimous decision. got taken down by Rafael Fiziev early, got hit with some big shots, but came back later on in the fight, started picking up on his timing, landing those big uppercuts, dropped Rafael Fiziev with that level change uppercut, also dropped Michael Chandler with that uppercut. And, like I said, he just developed his timing, and he's gotten a lot better. I think he can knock out Paddy Pimblett. So let me just go out and say that. I think he has the ability to land a big left hook over the top as Pimblett tries to close the pocket. When Pimblett throws his punches in the pocket, and even getting into the pocket, he loops all of his punches, and he keeps his head directly on the center line. If anybody's going to catch you and make you pay for it, if it's not Ilia Topuria, which it will be, it would be a guy like Justin Gaethje, man. Just covering, countering with the left hook, jabbing, countering with the left hook as Pimblett circles away, or countering over the top with the overhand right as Paddy Pimblett steps in. If he circles off to that rear side angle and throws a big right hand, follows with a left hook, he can knock Pimblett out. If he covers and comes over the top with an overhand right, he can knock Paddy Pimblett out. And, I think the kicking game, the low kicks of Gaethje could be a big issue for Paddy Pimblett if he gets hit with even 2 or 3 of those. So, listen, Gaethje is live to win this fight. He could definitely get a KO, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be the grappling of Paddy Pimblett that really just makes the case for who's going to win this matchup. I don't think it's going to be round 1, but what I will say is, almost every time Gaethje gets these title opportunities, he's getting finished in the first or the second round. So I think the finish comes before the 4th round, I'll say that. I think it comes in round 2, and I think Paddy Pimblett's grappling is just going to be too much. I could even see him getting into a striking exchange, tying up Gaethje in the clinch and jumping for a flying triangle and submitting him. I mean, he did a similar thing with Bobby Green where they were trading. Green slipped up, he jumped the guillotine, transitioned to the triangle, and boom. And it didn't take long until Bobby Green was out from that shot, or from that submission. I'm going to say Pimblett wins. I'm going to say Pimblett wins by submission. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm just going to say Paddy Pimblett wins by flying triangle choke. It's not crazy if you look into Paddy Pimblett's past, if you look into his training, if you look into even that fight against Bobby Green. It's definitely not impossible. But I'm going to say he wins by flying triangle. I think they get into the clinch. He jumps the triangle. Gaethje tries to get out of it, tries to stack him. Pimblett cuts the corner, cuts the angle, turns the corner, wraps the leg up, and submits Justin Gaethje via triangle choke to win the interim UFC lightweight championship. So give me Paddy the Batty Pimblett to win round 2 flying triangle choke submission and set up a fight with Ilia Topuria. All right, that's going to be it for my UFC 324 preview, predictions, and breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I'm so happy to be back, breaking these fights down for you. And I know there were a couple fights we skipped. We skipped Josh Hokett and Denzel Freeman. We skipped Atiba Gauthier and Andre Pulaev. But in the beginning of the podcast, we did touch on those fights and who I think is going to win those matchups. So yes, I'm your host, Double M. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell with a lead upward elbow, a rear downward elbow, and a spinning back elbow to make sure you don't miss any future uploads from the premier mixed martial arts and pro wrestling channel on YouTube. I am so happy to be back. I'm your host, Double M. Enjoy the fights this weekend. And if you're still in the gambling market, let's make some money, baby.